I have a lot of ingredients here. That can only mean one thing, and that is that we're baking. Even though I'm not big into baking, there are a few things that I really have dialed in. My pumpkin cheesecake is one of those things. It's actually surprisingly light because I use mostly ricotta cheese instead of cream cheese. And so it's not like a big, dense, heavy New York style cheesecake. It's very light, very airy, I guess you can say, and a great way to finish off a heavy, large Thanksgiving meal. So let's get started by making the crust first. In here I have 3 cinnamon graham crackers and a handful of ginger snaps. And then I have 2 tablespoons of sugar and 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to put the butter in the microwave and melt it for like 30 seconds. Butter's all melted. Now I'm going to break up the ginger snap cookies and the graham crackers. And you want this pretty evenly crushed, but if there are a few, little pieces that are larger than crumb size, that's fine too. Alternatively, you could do this in a food processor. It's one less dish for me, one less annoying thing to wash for me to wash, so I just do it like this. Now the melted butter is right in, again 4 tablespoons of that, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Just mix that up. Now we have our springform pan. We're gonna take that crust, put it right in, and press it down nice and flat. We will cover this with some plastic wrap, and it's gonna go in the fridge while we make the rest of the filling. For the filling, it's pretty straightforward. We have an 8-ounce block of cream cheese that's gonna go in, and we are going to whip this with the paddle attachment for 10 minutes, which seems like a long time. About halfway through, we'll use a spatula, kind of get things off the side, and then go for another 5 minutes. But we're introducing some air into the cheese and fluffing it up a little bit. We're also increasing the temperature of it just a little bit so that it will mix in better with the rest of our ingredients. You're gonna do this on like the second to lowest setting, so not super fast, you just wanna take your time. Once again, pull everything off the sides. Now we have 20 ounces of ricotta cheese. That's gonna go right in there. 1 3/4 cup of just white granulated sugar, and 1 can of evaporated milk. This is like a 12-ounce can. Drop this in and start off very slow, mixing that up. Now this, we're gonna let go for another 5 minutes. While this is doing this, I'm going to crack these 6 eggs into this bowl so that we can add them just one at a time. Doing this into a separate bowl allows us to make sure we don't get any eggshell in it. A couple minutes in, we're just gonna scrape around the edges, make sure, once again, that we're not getting any big pieces of cream cheese sticking to the sides. Okay, and now we have 1 can of pure pumpkin. This is a 15-ounce can. And that gets added right in. And if you find as you are beating this together, the pumpkin in, you have big pieces of cream cheese still, then you can increase the speed just a little bit and that'll help whip some of those out. Now this is at a good consistency. So I'm gonna switch attachments here and we'll put on the whisking attachment, and this is really gonna help fluff everything up. So once we put the whisk attachment on, I have some cornstarch here, 1.5 tablespoons. Just add that right in. I have 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, 2.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, ground cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, half a teaspoon of ground clove, and then a teaspoon of salt. And a lot of our spices, the seasonings, they kind of get pushed up on the side, so scrape that all off, push that down into the batter, just on a low setting. And now we're going to add the eggs. Just one at a time, and let them mix in before adding the next one. Once we get that last egg added, preheat the oven to 315 degrees. One more thing I forgot, fresh nutmeg. I'm going to grind in just like a pinch, not very much. This is also optional if you don't want to add it, or you can use pre-ground nutmeg as well. We're just going to let that go for probably 3 more minutes. That's all mixed. We've got our crust here. Now this is a very loose batter, and that's all right. We're going to add this into our pan, and it gets pretty full right up there, and that's okay. Now as the oven comes up to temperature, we're going to get our pan ready. So we have here a roasting pan. I'm going to add water here so that it's about 3/4 of an inch deep. Cheesecake is very prone to cracking. This cheesecake, you're going to get some of that anyway. We're going to use a water bath to kind of cut down on some of that, and what that does is basically it introduces steam into the oven. We're going to use some tin foil because this is a springform pan. If we just set it in there, the water's going to leak inside here, and your entire bottom of your cheesecake is going to be wet and gross. So take a large sheet of tin foil, and we're going to wrap this up around, and that will keep the water out as it cooks. We're going to put this into our 315 degree oven. Total cook time on that at 315 degrees is 3 hours. So you can see if I shake it, the whole thing uniformly shakes back and forth. It's almost like a souffle. This has cooked all the way through, and now it just needs to set. You set this out at room temperature for about an hour, and then when you put it into the fridge, it won't heat up everything else in the fridge, and let it sit in the fridge overnight. All right, this has been in the fridge overnight. When you put it in the fridge, you just want to cover it with a towel like this. That will help absorb some of the moisture that comes off of it as it cools down. You can still see that there's some on there, and so I will take a paper towel and I will just lightly dab the moisture off of it, but there's not a lot. Now we can take the form off the cheesecake. Now we will cut this up. So there it is, pumpkin cheesecake. Serve it chilled, but it is so light in texture. I won't even show you this. As you kind of cut through it, you can see that it just is so fluffy. Tastes amazing, very light, great way to finish off your Thanksgiving meal. So give this one a try. I love it because you make it a day in advance, just keep it in the fridge, and then you don't have to worry about cooking it on the day of Thanksgiving when there's so many other things to put in your oven. So let us know how you like it. The full recipe is linked in the captions, and I'll also show some of the